Up, everybody? Welcome back to the real world after Thanksgiving. I know how this is, where everybody goes on vacation, especially if you go to like BYU or really anywhere these days. You kind of take a whole week. Really, it's supposed to be Thanksgiving weekend, but it ends up kind of being the whole week that you get off, and it's hard to get back into the swing of things. So I definitely understand how that is, guys. I'm excited to be on our training with you guys tonight, and I'm going to be going over some topics that I think will help us really finish strong through the rest of the year. First off, I just want to say how proud I am of everybody. No matter where you're at in your journey as a team leader, whether you are absolutely going all in and killing it with your role, or whether you're just kind of along for the ride and you're still find yourself, I'm just grateful for all the work that everybody's done and for everything that you're doing, all the efforts that you're putting in to be here, to be on calls, be in it day in and day out, and really who you're becoming in the process. That's the thing that I'm most proud of. So I have something that I want to watch with you guys today. We're going to jump right into it. I was talking with Braden Searle about one of a video that came out last year from Ed Milet that I think is just a really prime topic for what we need to be talking about right now as team leaders. And the thing that's actually the most pertinent thing to talk about is you're talking about like winning. Because again, like the execution, the strategies of how to go actually recruit and build a team, those are really easy. And yeah, I want to like help people to go execute on like the specific play-by-play blueprints, but like all the directors of sales kind of know how to do that stuff. The thing that I think I can provide value in is giving you insights into who you can become really if you go apply the things that work that we talk about. And those strategies are simple, but I think really understanding why you should go all into being a team leader and why you should continue to go all into being a team leader if you already are. That's harder to be reminded of over time, consistently. So what I want to talk about today is this video by Ed Milet where he talks about this little thing we like to call separation season. And as I've been thinking about like what has been one of the things, the overall like broad stroke themes that's helped me to really win consistently here at Moxie and just in general, is this idea of working and making sacrifices that nobody else is willing to make that really aren't that big, honestly, compared to what everybody else is doing. They're really not that different. I just make them at times where most people aren't willing to. And that's why I really like Ed Milet's topic here of separation season, is because what he's about to show us and what we're going to learn from is why successful people work a certain way when everyone else doesn't. So like when everyone else is on vacation, you put in that little extra effort. When everybody else is like just being mediocre, you're exceptional. And I think that no matter whether it's in Moxie or anything else, like people don't really change from one thing to the next, unless you have a drastic change within yourself. And so I want to talk about today, like the importance of doing things that other people are not willing to do and what you get out of your life if you're willing to do that. Everybody sees shiny object syndrome and wants to go be tempted to like go solar in the off season or like go do other stuff. Very rarely, very few people in this world are able to keep their commitments and follow through with them and make them their best option. And so I really want to be the one that's like the pillar for you guys to like lean on to say like, no, if I do it like that, where I have blinders on, I work with like this incessant commitment, I'm going to get the things that I want, and not get distracted, right? And just go all in and work when other people are not willing to, so that you can have what other people are not willing to have. All right, we're going to get right into this, guys. We'll go straight into Ed Milet's video, separation season, and then I'm going to comment here and there. But a lot of this is going to be watching this together, guys. And like, I want you engaged here, taking notes so that you can learn from this stuff and go. Otherwise, you're just on a call that like you could go be doing anything else right now. You could go be playing Call of Duty or like anything else, or just like not being a part of this, and you'd be the same as if you weren't like actually engaged and taking notes. So be engaged, take notes, and I think you guys are really going to like this, and I'll chime in when there's key points that I think really apply to everybody. Okay, here we go. This is so good, guys. You're going to love this.
So what I'm going to talk about today is separation season. Some of you heard me talk about this before, but I'm going to do it in a way that you've never heard about it, and time of year where you can really separate yourself. You can separate yourself from other people, your competition, but you can also separate yourself from where you are, from the standards you've set. You can separate yourself from your current position to a new position in your relationships, your money, your body, your business, depending on the area that matters.
I really love this idea because right off the bat, what he's getting at is like what you are doing. You don't need to compare that to anyone else. Yes, we have key metrics and key indicators so that you can see like how you're doing compared to everyone else, like from a job perspective. That's important so that we can stoke competition so that you can see like what's actually possible to do and what the baseline is. But like really what you need to be comparing yourself is you versus you. Look at Violet's face. That was kind of funny, right? You versus you. How do you compare versus you, right? And if you're always getting better versus you, then at the end of the day, like you're going to be better than everybody else.
Matters most to you. So we're going to talk about that. You know, it's difficult when you're competing. If you're an entrepreneur or an athlete, somebody's ahead of you. It's difficult to catch them when they're at full speed. It just is. It's difficult. They're at you, they're running full speed, and you're sitting them down. It's difficult to catch at those times. But where you do catch people is during what I call separation seasons. And these are the seasons where some people begin to flinch. They get weak. They take time off. They relax. They get casual about their routine. Maybe they're not as sure about their standards as they once were. And when they do that, they flinch, bam, blow their doors off because you keep pushing and separate yourself during that time. You can separate from all kinds of different things. And again, I want to remind you, this isn't just about competing against other people. It's separating yourself from where you currently are, which is what all of you want to do. It's called growing. Growing is separating yourself from your current condition to the next level, whether that's mentally, emotionally, financially, as I've said. And so, but from an entrepreneur standpoint, from a business standpoint, from a family standpoint, nutrition, diet, we're entering the ultimate separation season, which is this window of time in the holidays. It kind of started around Thanksgiving, but it really begins to accelerate about the second, third week of December when everybody starts taking time off. They start cooling it. They don't show up to work like they did if they're an entrepreneur. They're not really hustling. They start making all these excuses in their mind. Well, clients don't want to meet with me during the holidays, so I'm going to take a bunch of time off. Or everybody eats bad this time of year, so that's when I'm going to eat bad. Or everyone spends money during the holidays that they don't have. I'm going to do the same thing. And that's when they get weak. They flinch. And if you can get even more disciplined, more focused, you can begin to lap people that are in front of you. You know, here I am nearly 50 years old, and I can tell you I've worked hard all my career, all my life in different areas, but I really get excited during separation seasons. And I'm like, this is when they're at half speed. I'm at full speed. I can lap them. If I'm in front of people, I can lap them 2 or 3 or 4 times. And it's also where I've separated myself from the former me. You know, we're coming down to the end of the year. There's just so many days left when you're hearing this at the end of the year. And it's a chance right now to lean in at the finish line in so many areas. But what do most people do? If it was full speed sprint all year, this is when they start to jog and slow down. And, you know, I should eat that extra piece of cake. I should do this. And they get off their game. And so today's going to be about separating. I want the Max Out community, the Max Out universe, those of you that are listening to this, to take advantage of this, to get excited, to go, this is when I get them. This is when I get after it, right? Because in life, I've said many times, in life, we really will never exceed what we believe we're worth. We just never will. And so if
this is where I'm going to stop it first. What did he just say? In life, we never exceed what we believe we are worth. So this is really interesting because like it's like setting the thermostat to 80 degrees and that's like your standard, right? And then as soon as you start getting to a place where like, oh, I'm actually recruiting, I like some good work. If you don't think you're worth all of that, if you think that you're worth success, if you think that you're just destined to have what your parents have had or what other people in your life have had, or you're destined to just be like what other team leaders are, or you're destined to just go get this type of job that like normal people your age or in your situation get after college, you're going to stop working and have yourself down-regulated to what your thermostat, your temperature is. If you start to heat up over 80 degrees, as soon as you start getting out of that standard of like, if you don't think you're worth more, you'll just start going right back down to what you set the thermostat at. So like, that's why it's really important and really why I've been focusing a lot on the inner game stuff with team leaders lately is because what Ed Milet's saying is absolutely true. It's like, it's so important that you can redefine yourself and what you are actually worth, because I think that a lot of us are just living below what our standards are in general. I even think that I've been really evaluating my first creation lately. And like, for those of you that are close to me, especially a lot of the directors of sales and my good friends who are on this call, I've been talking a lot about like my first creation lately and how I've been very serious about like diving into my first creation. And, a part of what I've been diving into is really evaluating like, what do I actually think that I'm worth, and what do I define that value as for myself right now, but what do I actually want it to be? Because I'm definitely getting out of life what I think that I'm worth, and if that value does not actually like equate to what my potential is, then I'm not going to get what I could out of life, and I'm going to look back at the end of it and just look back and say like, man, I could have had so much more, but I just chose not to because I didn't believe it. And so I feel like that's what's happening a lot with team leaders is like, again, you guys knew why you committed to be here. You knew why you committed to go actually all into to your goals. A lot of you guys knew going into it that you might be working with people who were maybe not exactly like you, and you still wanted to go actually all out and kill it. And then what things happen and the rubber hits the road and things get really difficult, then everybody starts saying like, oh, and you have grass is greener syndrome, or you just stop working in general, or like convince yourself that it's so hard or it's not worth it. But in reality, guys, I think this can all be tied back to how you view yourselves and your identity, and really just down regulating yourself to what you think you're actually worth. And so it's really important to define what you're actually worth, and what you want to be worth, and then get yourself to believe that over time. And if you go into my trainings and the modules, that's the way to do it, is the statement of definite purpose, the SDP. We're going to be talking a lot more about that, especially as I'm planning out what I want my team leader trainings to be in the next semester. I'm going to go freaking hard on inner game and on changing yourself so drastically that you can actually choose what you want in life and go get it, and stop with all the bullcrap excuses that are holding you down, and including the way that you view yourself. Start treating yourself like the king or queen that you are, to actually go get what you want out of life, to get what you deserve actually out of life, and not just what you're telling yourself you're worth. So that's a really powerful concept, and I think that's what it starts with, is saying like, where am I actually at, and then go trying to be the better version of yourself, versus what you would normally do, especially as we're coming into this like holiday season, right?
If you can begin to do things you think other people aren't willing to do, or maybe do things the former you weren't willing to do, you begin to believe that the new you deserves other people get, who you deserves to get the former you didn't get either. This is why this season is so critical. And I've stacked up maybe 30 straight separate. There's other ones. There's summertime, right? There's times like that. And we're going to talk about some of that right now. And so, but right now is the big one. You all know what I'm talking about, right? Everyone gets kind of casual. Everyone slows down. And one day turns into 3 days, turns into 4 days. Christmas is a holiday, a month. New Year's Eve is a holiday, not a hollow month or a hollow week. But people keep taking these hollow weeks and hollow months this time of year. And it's when you get them. It's when you get the former you. It's when this new version of you emerges. And so take advantage of this season. It's the greatest of all seasons. And I can tell you, it's one of the reasons why, if I do have some in my life, is I separated during this time. I separated from the old me, and I separated from my competition. So let's talk a little bit about what some of those things are. Number one, right now, in business, people are going to start slowing down. They're going to start doing all their planning for 2021. Here's the truth. It didn't take that long. You can do planning in a pretty quick window of time, right? You need to get after it. You need to execute. There's 12 months in a year. There's 365 days in most years, right? But don't go start planning before the year on a plan you could have done on New Year's Day anyway. You know what I'm talking about. Let's not make any excuses to do that. For you achievers, you want to separate this time of year. But there's a subtle thing that most people don't realize about themselves.
Now, what he's about to say here, and it's been a while since I've watched this video, so I'm kind of newly reacting to it with you guys. But what he's about to say here is really important for, I think, most people on this call that are actually really ambitious. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here if you weren't ambitious. People just don't tend to choose to want to go be a leader or like build teams or even go sell pest control again during the summer if they're not ambitious. So check this out, what he says.
If you're not a real competitive achiever type, maybe you're more of a belonger. I want you to hear me very closely, because there's a lot of people that fit both descriptions. You like being on the team. You like being a part of a squad. You like being part of a family environment. You're kind of that person who loves to be a part of something, but maybe not lead something. You have a really hard time doing the work this time of year because unconsciously, subconsciously, listen to me, you don't want to separate. You don't want to pull away from the pack. You love these people that you're around. And so unconsciously and subconsciously, you start slowing down as to not pull away, even though you know these things could pull you away from the pack, because you don't want to leave people. You like the people that you're around. You're kind of that person. So if you're that person, you got to evaluate that. Is there some element of you subconsciously or unconsciously who purposely doesn't do the things you know you should be doing to separate? Because you don't want to separate from where you currently are, and you don't want to separate from the group of people that you're around. And this is something that most people don't process. And so let's talk about some basic places you could separate. Number one.
Isn't that interesting? I find that idea fascinating, that actually sometimes when we don't want to go choose to do the extra work or like go do the thing that no one else is willing to do, it's because we actually kind of don't want to, because then that would mean that we would have to like be different than everybody else, or like we don't want to separate ourselves from what our families are doing. Or I know for me, for sure, that was kind of a hard thing. Like, and this was ever apparent last week during Thanksgiving when Sarah had a surgery in Dallas, and so we ended up going to Dallas for Thanksgiving, and spending it at Tim's house. And we actually invited some of our family there too. So McKay was there, his wife was there, Kennedy, and then my brother Bridger and my parents were there as well. Normally we don't spend Thanksgiving at Tim's house. Normally we spend Thanksgiving with like in-laws, right? And something really interesting happened to me while I was at Thanksgiving at Tim's house. And granted, we had other stuff going on, like Sarah recovering from her surgery and me wanting to be a part of just there along the ride with her and like really help her out and stuff. But I noticed something starkly different about being at Tim's house for Thanksgiving versus being for that week versus being at my typically when we're at like extended family's house, because our extended family just kind of doesn't view the world the same way as an owner of a $100 million company like Tim does. Normally when we're at our in-laws, or not our in-laws, when we're at extended family, it's like kind of the whole time you're there, you're like doing something that and is not at all related to like anything really productive that I've noticed. And I love spending time with family. I actually very much enjoy spending time with family. And we definitely tried to do that during this week, although it did seem like I was working a lot. But like, I was setting aside a lot more time to go like play pickleball than I normally would with family. And really trying to like make sure I was doing that with my parents and my brothers and bonding with them. But then there were other times like when I would get home and like I would say like, hey, I've got this project that I'm working on, and I would go buckle down and I would work on things for like a few hours at a time. Whereas normally like at my extended family's, like out of town where we usually go visit, or here in Utah, it's just not like that at all. In fact, that's like kind of frowned upon to like be doing stuff where you're not like with everyone for every waking second. And I'm not trying to speak badly about that. I'm just pointing out that like it was very different noticing how like the way that Tim operates and how he's gotten ahead is like that was totally okay to be doing, right? And it was almost like it was really refreshing for me to be spending time with my family there and for it to still feel productive, because like, yes, we took time on Thanksgiving to like celebrate and be with each other. And that was awesome. It was amazing. It felt incredible. But I made sure that in spite of the time I was spending with family, that I was still being productive in my projects and making sure that I didn't feel like I was losing momentum, because the hardest thing for me is to lose momentum and then come back and to feel like I have all this work to do. And you guys probably feel the same way. But like my point with what Ed's saying is that the former version of me would have rather spent time with family like 5, 6, 7 years ago. The Hayden of 7 years ago would have rather spent that entire week with family. Oh, I just need a break. Oh, I just need like this week. But now like I'm so like I'm having fun with what I'm doing, and I'm having fun with like building this $1 billion company with you guys, that it's like not hard to go want to spend time working. It's not viewed as work in the same way that it's viewed as like this project where like we're having a good time doing it. It's challenging, yes, but like that challenge is what makes me become the best version of myself. So if somehow you guys can view that, where over this holiday as it comes up, I'm like warning you ahead of time, is like, if you want to be exceptional, go learn how to make what you're building fun, but not care about what other people think. Because to the extent you care about what other people think, you will not have anything great in life, not anything exceptional or extraordinary. You can go be grateful for the things that you do have, and that's always the key to happiness no matter what. But in terms of opportunity, in terms of being a blessing to people, it will be very difficult to extend your influence further than your immediate sphere of people that you know if you're not willing to go separate yourself in time to do something. You guys, did you hear what I just said? You can go serve in your church and community. You can go be an influence and a blessing to other people in your family. You can go raise a really good family. But it will be very difficult to have influence outside of your immediate circle unless you go make the sacrifices that people are not willing to make in times when, especially in times when normal people are not willing to make them. Because if you just go by what everybody else says, you'll conform to what everybody else has. And what you guys are trying to build, what you are building here, the opportunity that you have is that is different than what everybody else has. And so therefore at first it's going to be looked down upon. I mean, when I would go to my in-laws' place all the time, they would say things like, "Hey, Hayden, when are you going to finish school?" Or, "Hey, are you done knocking doors? Like, what's the real job that you're looking at getting?" And they wouldn't say the real job, but they would say, "So what are you looking at doing after you finish school?" I'm like, I'm already kind of doing it. It was cool because while we were at Tim kind of, as my dad got talking to Tim while we were there at his place this week. It was cool to have them there. It was kind of fun. But while we were there, my parents got talking to Tim, and Tim pulled my parents aside, and they're like, "Hayden doesn't really talk about this stuff much, but like, are you guys aware with like actually how much they're killing it, like your sons?" And I was like, I was listening to this. It was kind of interesting because my parents were like, "No, he doesn't really tell us like normal, specifics, and we don't really have kind of a context of what it might mean. I know where they're doing well. They're, good kids or whatever." And Tim was like, "No, like your kids are set for life if they just keep this up, like literally set for life and better than anything else they could possibly doing. And these are the metrics. So this is what it would look like." It's like, he's like, "I want you to know that like I'm really proud of what they're doing." So then, and this is the reason why I'm telling you this, because this could apply to anyone here, honestly. Everyone on this call is in a position to have exactly that. And so then as we're driving, we're going to dinner, and it's me and my parents and Sarah in the car. And my dad said, "So can anyone do what you've done, Hayden? Like, or is this kind of exclusive for you because you were there first, or like, I don't know what that looks like, but could anyone do what you've done?" And the thing was, I was like, "Dad, here's the crazy thing is like so many more people that I work with right now are more talented than me. I can count. I don't have enough fingers on both of my hands. I don't have enough toes on both of my feet combined to count how many more people are more talented than me than I work with right now. But like few people are willing to just make the sacrifices that I'm making." And I was like, "Dad, I'll give you an example. Like, I have no idea what's going on in football right now." And this is odd for my dad to hear this because like I was a football fanatic growing up. I was like, "Dad, I don't know what's going on with football right now." But also like, it's not like this weird conscious sacrifice I'm making to say like, "Hey, I'm ignoring sports for forever to go build a company." It's like, it doesn't even consume my mind because of how much I feel excited about what I'm doing and how exciting it is to go play a game that actually makes my family's life better and it extends my influence, makes me more able to like bless and serve people financially and with our message. That like, I don't even feel that I have time for that other stuff. And when I do, it's really fun, but like I can go do a lot of stuff later that I want to do that like I feel like I'm playing other people's game if I'm not winning at my own, if I'm only being a passive observer of everyone else's. And so it was interesting to talk to my dad about that. Because what he's referring to is like my youngest brother, not one of my youngest brother wants to sell at some point, and then the brother just above him is going to be selling this summer, his rookie summer. And so he's basically asking, what are your younger brothers? Will they have the chance to do what you're doing too? Or are they going to miss out? Or is this just actually a summer job for them as well? That's what he was really asking. That's what I could hear in that question. And because he wants his kids to be in like an optimal position too, right? And he's wondering if that's just unique to me, if I just somehow got lucky. And I was like, "Dad, even like all of my brothers are more talented than me than at the things that it takes to go win in recruiting and team building. But I was like, because I'm not as talented, it's caused me to have to work really hard and make certain sacrifices. And I was like, the people who will win at this, everyone can do everyone that works with me currently can become what I've become, can do what I've done, and can do it faster in half the time. And that's absolutely true. I was like, but I'm just curious to see who will do it, because it does require a little bit of uncomfortability of sacrifice. It requires a single-minded focus. It requires an ability to commit to something without actually, like, summer sales, everyone just promises you the world. And so it requires an ability to commit to something and actually go earn it and work for it. But like, I was like, Dad, but everyone can have what I've built here. Like, they can have a part in that where they too will be set for life if they just keep going, and it will be better than anything else they could have done. But the only people that won't have that is the ones that just aren't willing to, or they're conforming to like what their family's saying, or like they can't like have a little bit of faith to like go provide enough value to then have the bigger deals. Like, that's the only thing that would stop people, really. But other than that, this is like the best opportunity anyone could ever have building a company and being an entrepreneur, because it just sets you up to actually be a true entrepreneur of the things, and it provides the type of lifestyle to where like you can literally go do whatever you want and be successful at it. I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm going to fast forward in Ed's talk here to the end, and then we're going to watch the last about 6 minutes of it and then finish up here. I hope it's okay that I'm kind of just spitting off some random thoughts that I've had that have been on my mind about team leaders. And really, a lot of you guys have been on my mind over the last couple of weeks. Like I've said in the past, this has been a very difficult time for me over the last couple of years. And so it's caused me to think about what matters most in life. And as I've thought about that, I've thought about the contribution that I want to make for people that I care about most. And that contribution has a lot to do with who people become that work with me, under me, alongside me, however you want to view that. And that's everyone on this call. That's everyone on this call. That's every new rookie that signed up this year, making it so that if they chose to buy into the culture and to the core values first and foremost, that's the only faith you would need, is to buy into the cultures and core value, which includes keeping commitments. Then if you could do that, it would open up a window of opportunity for you that you just would never, ever be able to have doing anything else. That's what I'm trying to provide here in terms of contribution. And that is what is here. It's not like we're just attempting and hopefully we get there one day. Like, it's here. Like, the opportunity is knocking at your doorstep, and all you have to do is open. All you have to do is go in. That's it. Man. Anyway, all I'm trying to say is you guys have been on my mind. So let's keep watching this.
Now, this thing we call winning or bliss or self-worth, self-confidence, identity isn't as difficult as we think it is. It's little inches. And when we're aware and intentional and we get creative and innovative about places we can separate ourselves. I mean, it may sound really silly and stupid, but I'm an introverted person. But one of the ways I separate myself, this may sound really silly, guys, I smile and say hello to strangers often, because almost nobody does it. I would have never done it before. And just to give them the gift, you're going to think I'm crazy. I walk by people sometimes, I can't make eye contact. I literally say a prayer, peace be with them. You think, why would you do that? Well, one, I want to pray for them. And two, it's a way for me to feel better about me. I'm doing something. Thousands of people walk by that person, didn't see them, didn't say hello, didn't smile. And even if I didn't do that, almost nobody say a quick prayer for a stranger, right? Separation season, next level. Make a few extra phone calls and text messages this year that almost no one's going to make. Instead of texting that friend that you talk to all the time, that's the normal behavior. Separate, call them, let them hear your voice. Maybe that person you have not texted or talked to in a long time, send them that text, send it to multiple people. Let them know you care about them. You know how you all get texts everyone sends, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, that everybody gets? Separate yourself and make them voice notes this year where you personally say it to somebody. Takes a little bit more time, might be an extra couple hours. Do it. You want another way to separate yourself? Do it before New Year's Eve. Do it before Christmas Eve. I'm going to give you a tip. Everyone gets all their messages on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. How about you leave your voice notes or your text message 2 or 3 days early? Hey, I wanted to be the first, or I wanted to get in there early before everybody's hearing about you. I wanted you to know I was thinking about you. When New Year's happens, how about doing it December 29th? Just say, hey, New Year's is coming. We're all going to get flooded with messages. I've already made my plans. I know you have. And reach out early. That's a separator. It makes you different. It makes you unique. And it makes you begin to separate from the former you, and you separate from your competition. If you want to move apart from where you are currently, it's what you're going to do now, right now, and into next year that's going to make the difference. Not what you say and not what you think. Now, I've done millions of hours with you guys on what you think can impact how you act. I understand all that. But at the end of the day, there's too many people just thinking they can think their way into changing their life. You can't think your way into doing it. You must physically do it. You must physically separate. And I'm going to give you the mother of all great news about separation season. You ready? Millions of people are hearing this show right now or watching it, and less than 1% will do any of the things I've said. Is that incredible? Less than 1%. So by virtue of doing anything I've said today, any of the things, not all of them, and some of you will do all of them, but any of them, any one.
And isn't this what Tim always says, where he's like, you don't even have to be good at any of the things that we're teaching. You literally just have to try. That's it. And I think most people realize that, but they still don't try because some version of they don't feel like they deserve it or are afraid of the positive outcomes. Like, it's not the failure that we fear, it's the success because of what that will mean in our lives. You know, it's not the failure. Maybe your brain is protecting you from the failure, and I think that that's true in a lot of cases. But even oftentimes for me, I found that it's the fear of the success because of what that would mean in terms of a shift in my own identity and what that would mean in terms of my own comfort. Right? I'm used to being who I am. But every time I want to change, that gets uncomfortable, and that's difficult. And so that's why we oftentimes downregulate to what we're used to rather than upregulate to what we deserve. And I think that's an interesting thing. But I've literally found what Ed is saying to be absolutely true. It's funny that like I'm actually in the same position right now that Ed was in his company when he started really, really killing it with WFG. And then he went on to be just this like really incredible, impactful, outspoken, celebrity entrepreneur. And I think that he's just influencing a ton of people with this mindset because he's seen it actually work really in business. And that's why we should follow it. Right. But that's also why like people should follow what I'm teaching as well, because it actually freaking works. It really does work. I've been looking at the statistics of people that have gone through Moxie University, and I'm fully convinced that if people just went through my foundations course in Moxie University, it would change their life completely. But I see the stats on the back end of the software. It's hard to very few people who are even on this call have gone through all of my training, all of it. And it's there will come a day where like that stuff that I'm teaching in that training will be taught on public stages. And where I down the road, and even while I'm still working at Moxie, I anticipate this will happen where people will pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for my time to teach those same principles, and you guys have access to them for free right now. That will happen. And I think it's because of what Ed's saying. It's very few people take action on the things that are actually most important. And that for me, I'm trying to like, I think I have understood what it takes to get people to take more action, but like, actually putting that into practice to get all of you guys to take action on the things that matter most and not squander your potential. That's a difficult thing to do. Right. And I found like for myself, I was squandered my potential for a really long time. It's a difficult thing to hack yourself out of. So like, just know that I'm with you there, guys, if you're having a hard time right now, but also if you're killing it, it's helpful to just revisit the basics too. It really is. Okay. Let's just keep watching this. We're almost done. I'm going to fast forward just a tiny bit more here.
Of them, you have separated yourself from about 99% of the people. But more importantly, if you do just one of them, you've separated yourself from the former you into a growing, better.
I love that. Freaking love that.
Separation.
All you have to do is one of these things.
Weak, when they flinch, when they relax, when they kick back, when they take a hollow month or a hollow week, we take our holiday, and even on our holiday, we find our little goofy, crazy ways to separate ourselves. And you know what you could do big in this holiday season? Separate yourself by having more fun. See, none of the things I said can steal from fun. Don't have to take from your fun. What if you decided this is going to be the most blissful, most fun holiday of all time. And you know what? It doesn't matter what the conditions are. It doesn't matter about a pandemic. Hey, guys, I'm in the pandemic too. I've had some health issues too. I've had some family issues too. I've had my best friend and father pass away too. So I understand all that. Okay. I relate to a lot of the pain many of you are going through. I connect with that. I'm being vulnerable with you. And guess what? This is going to be the most blissful separating season of my dadgum life, because I'm going to honor these difficult times by coming out of this a better man, an improved man. And I don't do that by hoping it or thinking it, even though those things help. I want to hope, I want to think, but I got to do. And there's simple little things. These inches are the separators. The sad thing in life is people think they have to make these massive dramatic changes and create the catalyst for long-term change. Most massive changes are simple fine-tuning type carburetor adjustments that we make that end up overhauling the engine of our life long-term if we're willing to get creative and innovative. So I want all of your thoughts, your vision, your paradigm, the matrix you start to see the world through starting right this moment. How can I separate? How can I separate? Separation from competition, separation from the for me. How can I separate my body, separate my mind, separate my family, separate my moments, separate my nutrition, separate my business, separate my money? Everyone's spending extra money. I ain't doing that this year. I'm separating. Everyone overeats. I ain't doing that this year. Everybody cools their workouts. I ain't doing that this year. Right? All of these things begin to be catalysts for change. And you stack up all these inches, and this time next year, there's a different woman standing there. There's a different man standing there. It won't be perfect. There'll be things you need to do then to separate from that person. But I want you to remember this lastly. We're not separating from where we are because there's something wrong with us. That's not the reason. You're exactly the way you're supposed to be because that's exactly who you are right now. All you can do is start from where you are, one day at a time, one more at a time, and separate. And guess what? In a year, you'll be exactly the woman or man you're supposed to be at that time. And we'll be talking about separating from there as well. That's the journey of life. We're either growing or we're dying, right? And I want you to grow. And we grow by separating. So today was brief, to the point, tactics, strategies. Share this with people. Get the message out to your teams if you're in business.
Okay, guys, we're going to finish it up there. I'm not really sure what else to say to add on top of that, except for this is the time now to be separating yourself from the version of you, the previous version of you. I think that's the thing that stood out to me most from this video is like, yeah, if you're really killing it, you want to be like in that game of like, man, how can I just be doing things like way better than everybody else? And that's kind of how I feel as well. It's like, I look around at the office right now. Like I'm at the office, later than most people today. And I look around at the office and I'm like, it's so easy to win if you just stop caring about what everybody else is doing and you focus on just doing things with excellence and taking pride in how you work. If I take pride in the details of how I work, if I take pride in how much I demand out of the people that I care about and love, if I take pride in being the best version of me day in and day out, and I start with little things, I do it in a way where I'm honest with myself. Like one of the things that he said that really hit home with me is like separating yourself by having more fun. I will be totally honest with you. That is one thing I need to work on for myself for sure, is having more fun. And that's one thing that I want to work on, being a better version of me by having more fun. But what's that thing for you? Like that little next step for you that you guys need to be working on, and get honest with yourself about that, and then separate yourself from the former version of you. At this time, what would that person do when they get down about themselves? Would they stop working? What would that person do over the holidays? Would they stop working? Would they just coast, take it easy? What are you going to do that's great? What are you going to do that like 10, 20 years down the road, you're thinking about the stories that you're telling your kids? I'll tell you like something that's been on my mind lately. And that's, I always try to find these tricky ways of motivating myself, right? It's really me future pacing myself. So like I always tell you how when I'm working with someone, when I want to help them impact themselves and have like massive change, I always think like, what's the coolest version of the story I could tell to people? Lately, what I've been thinking about, as a lot of you guys know, there's been a lot of trial and hardship with Sarah and I trying to have children. And it's been very, very difficult and I won't even go into the details because it's so hard for people to even understand, but like, it's not fun. It's not easy. it's it's hard. And a lot of times it's been hell, honestly. So yeah, we've gone through like surgery and after surgery and doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment, and with no end in sight, right? Seemingly. But one thing that does keep me motivated is thinking about, I believe that I'm gonna have kids when I do, thinking about the story about myself that I'm proud of, as I'm teaching them to be better than other people around them. Better in the sense of not being mediocre. I'm not trying to teach them to have like entitled, right? What I am trying to teach them to be entitled to, though, is not being average. And so as I'm trying, I imagine myself at my kid's bedside, you know, talking to my daughter as she's growing up, explaining why we don't do certain things on Sundays. I imagine explaining why it's not okay for us to like lie or break promises, and telling her stories about how I didn't do those things growing up, and telling her stories about how I did those things in my business, even though there were times where it was tempting to do those things, to break my commitments or to go to do another thing that seemed cooler. But because I stuck to what I committed to, that actually made all the difference. I imagine myself telling my daughter, my son, my kids stories about how um, when everyone else was busy taking time off, I was busy working because of the things that I cared about most. When everyone else was busy like talking badly about others, I was busy trying to build them up. When everybody else was busy doing other things that just is so easy for us to all do, um, that the I was trying to believe in people. When everyone else only wanted to work with people who were already the best at selling pest control, I was busy trying to find the formula of how to help people who have no business of being good at something like this open their eyes to what they could have in their life. No business selling pest control well, but sell it well and teaching them how to do it so that they could open their eyes to the things that they're entitled to in their life that they could have later. And those are the things that motivate me, is future pacing. Like, what is the story I want to tell about myself to my kids to teach them and to motivate them and to help them? And I think you guys should think about that as well, as like, when are you going to break the chain of who you've always been? Because most people don't. They just fall into the same thing over and over and over again. But when are you going to break that chain? When are you going to be someone better? And now's the time. Okay. I'm getting pretty serious about my first creation with myself right now. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up again is because I have some cool things coming down the pipe where I'm going to be very much in this with you guys. And I'm excited to share my journey, my story with you guys too. But just know I love you. Thank you for being on the call tonight. I've got, let's see, there's one thing that I wanted to share. Oh, okay. So this week we have Live It Speaker. No, excuse me. We do not have the Live It Speaker series. We have the Christmas dance on Saturday, where we host a dance for special needs adults in the area for Best Buddies. And then we also have the Team Leader Dinner Friday. So don't forget about that, as well as our Thursday night training. Make sure you get everybody there. Thanks, guys. I love you a ton, and we'll talk to you soon.